We're trying to get you to walk across that short-term pain, the burning coals, to get to the treasure, the fortune on the other side, which is more income and less work. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Love to have you on board today. Interesting topic that I really want to talk about. And I want to talk about like it's a disease and it's the disease of profit margin obsession. You know, and it's a disease that runs rampant in humans in general. We've all got it to some degree. You know, it's kind of like the chicken pox that it lives within us, whether it activates or not. You know, I don't know, but we've all got a degree of profit margin obsession within us, and there is ways to cure that obsession. And it is a problem. It is a problem when we obsess too much about our profit margins because it can get in the way of growth. In a big way. And we're going to talk about how, in particular, you know, different profit margins for small teams, large teams, small brokerages, large brokerages, talk about those margins and how obsession over the margins can change things and in a negative way if we're not careful as well too. So that's the important part here. So when we talk about this profit margin problem, if you will, just understand, you know, we've seen this. It's very normal. Okay. It's very normal and everybody's got it. You've got it. We've all got it. We've all hit it. You know, some have gotten through it. I'm happy to say I've gotten through it. It's a problem. You know, as many of you know, I'm the founder of Eisenhower Coaching and Consulting. So we've coached many of the highest producing teams and brokerage owners and agents throughout North America. Oftentimes our clients are number one in production in every multiple listing service. So we definitely have a lot of experience in coaching leadership in general. So with that being said, we see a lot of this problem, and it's a constant problem that we have to address. And here's why it's a problem, right? As a profit margin, you know, we're always trying to preserve those profit margins, right? And that makes sense, you know, business sense. We want profit. So, you know, we look at all our expenses and we hope we have a lot more profit than we do expenses. So that means more money in our pockets, right? But at the same time, we're always trying to grow, right? We're trying to grow. We're trying to increase our income, while at the same time increasing, you know, our personal time, our life balance. And typically that's going to come through growth, right? Businesses don't grow, they die. Trying to maintain things the same is very hard because if you do stay the same, then all of a sudden, you know, you're just going to start really just trying to keep expenses low to get the most profit out of it. And there's only so much, you know, you can't really cut your way to profitability. There's only so much growth and happiness and fulfillment and life balance that you can squeeze out of a turnip, you know what I mean? Like at some point, you know, you can't cut expenses anymore. So, you know, things get very frustrating in your career and you can usually make lateral moves out to different, and we see it's the biggest reason people quit in real estate. It's this obsession over profit margins. And, you know, as coaches and consultants and leaders, we're always trying to encourage people to grow both their income and their free time. You know, that's what growth gets you. Growth's a wonderful thing. So, you know, it doesn't mean you have to want to be huge or, you know, a monstrous brokerage or a monstrous team or anything. Just a little bit bigger. That's what most of our clients want, a little bit bigger. And, you know, some end up being monstrous and big and they have tons of profit and they have tons of free time. And that's what happens. The bigger you get, typically that's usually how that happens. But they didn't intend to be there and you don't have to either. You know, they're happy they're there, you know, making millions of dollars and not working much. And what you replace that free time with is up to you, right? I mean, you might work on other things, you know, or you might just travel a lot, or, you know, you might open up a mortgage company or a development company or a property management company or insurance company or, you know, lots of things that can go alongside your real estate business. You might flip houses. You might invest a lot in rentals. I mean, we coach all that stuff, believe it or not. When you coach leadership, you got to, because, you know, they get some free time and some of them want more money and more pillars of income. That's great too. Some have enough and they want to spend some of that time just traveling too. I mean, that's great. That's up to you, you know, however you want to do that. But obsession over profit margins will not get you there. I'll tell you that right now. You're kind of stuck with the hand you're dealt if you obsess over profit margins, because, you know, you can't, like I said, you can't squeeze blood out of turnip. You're not going to get much more time out of your existing situation unless we grow. And when we coach and train and consult people, we're always trying to help them grow, because if they grow, there is some pain associated with that will reduce profit margins, right? I mean, maybe that's, I don't care where you are in, it could be just investing in some real estate marketing. You know what I mean? Buying flyers or postcards or something, or, maybe, investing in some online leads, who knows, spending money on your business, will give you return, but it will temporarily reduce your margin, and it could be hiring a transaction coordinator that you pay by the file, and then ultimately hiring, a full-time staff member, an admin staff member that handles all your marketing, your administrative needs, your transaction coordination, your listing management, all that kind of stuff. You pay them as a W-2 employee every 2 weeks. That's very painful. That really reduces the margin. That puts some pressure on things, right? Scary. You may be bringing on agents, it could be agents in your brokerage, could be agents on your team, could be buyer's agents, showing assistants, listing specialists, inside sales agents, all those different things. You got to pay a percentage now, which is a big amount of money of sales. And that reduces the margins even further. And you couple that with adding more administrative staff members and more agents as you grow and grow and grow. Woo, could be office space, things like that. All of those things reduce margins. And you're going to see it's scary, so a lot of people quit along the way. Somewhere they hit one of those obstacles and they quit, you know what I mean? And then they're just they're there and they maintain and they say it's comfortable, not improving. They say that's comfortable where they are right there, but they do start to burn out, right? Because you can't squeak much more time out of that. Like, you can cut some expenses, increase your margin, or you have to wait for the market to go up and down. So you're always worried about the market and how many sales there are, and what's going on with home prices and sales volume and interest rates and things like that, because you're not in control anymore. And even when those things do impact things, they don't impact much. And so it's tough. I mean, you see a lot of people with goals to get out of production themselves. That's why they started their team or their brokerage, right? But they can't. Like, they have to keep selling because they're not growing anymore. They're not growing anymore because they're stuck on their margins. So we as coaches, we're trying to push you through some of those painful, uncomfortable steps to increase your margin. And here's why. Okay? So I'm going to tell you why. Because margins just don't that matter. You know what I mean? So we'll start with the top. Like, seems like every now and then, Elon Musk is like they say he's the wealthiest man in the world or something. He's worth the most money in the world. Okay? So let's start with Elon. Elon has got one of the smallest profit margins in the world. And you're going to see that with the most successful people. The most successful people have the smallest profit margins. And the least successful people have the biggest. And I'm going to prove it to you. Okay? Because they're not obsessed. Elon is not obsessed with margins at all. He's obsessed with net income, and probably a bunch of other fun stuff. So like his jets, travel to the moon, apparently. So let's talk about Tesla. He owns Tesla, right? So, and I'm just going to use round numbers because I have no idea what the real numbers are, but you'll get the point, right? Let's say that he makes $1 billion a year from Tesla, 1 billion with a B. Let's just say that. So he makes a lot of net income. $1 billion a year is a lot of net income, right? And that, let's say that comes from 101 billion of revenue that Tesla makes, but he's got 100 billion. So he's got 101 billion in revenue and 100 billion in expenses. Okay. So that means he's got like a real low, like 0.10% profit margin. Real low. One of the lowest profit margins in the world, but he's still making $1 billion. He's still got he's got a fleet of his own private airplanes and space shuttles and things like that. So that's what he's got. So he's got big net income, but a real low margin. Okay. And that falls true all the way down the ladder of human success stories, right? Let's move into real estate. Who's at the top of the real estate game? I don't know, but let's just say it's the guys that own the big national companies. Like, I think Lineker owns Remax. I think they're public to some degree, but let's just say he owns the most shares. Maybe Gary Keller owning Keller Williams, those types of guys, so they own the most, right? But they have I'll say a Glenn Stafford at EXP. I'll keep going, all those guys that own those companies, right? So let's say they are next, right? They have the lowest margins in real estate. I mean, think about it. The guys that own the big national brands, I mean, they get all their money off of it's to some degree, whether it's profit share, revenue share, or freaking real estate sales, percentages of commission, it's coming from production at some point, right? So you got production, you got a sale. The bulk of that sale is going to the agent. The agent's getting the most of it. Maybe the local brokerage gets a big chunk of it too, or middlemen or other people on staff. And then, some percentage goes to the mothership. And the mothership's got expenses too, like the international company. They got to pay operations staff and for different systems and tools they provide their agents. Maybe it's marketing, they're called royalties or franchise fees sometimes. Sometimes there's just a direct split to the mothership. Who knows? But they've got expenses too, right? So that you're going to pay out your revenue share to other people too, and profit share. So, those are all expenses, right? And the dude at the top, the Elon Musk of real estate, has the smallest percentage of the pie. His profit margin is the smallest, but oftentimes making the most money because they have multiple airplanes too. Okay, they've got, so maybe not as much as Elon. They don't have a spaceship, but they got quite a bit. Okay. So that's true. Then it keeps going down, right? Then we start moving into like the guys that own the individual franchises or just real estate brokers, maybe the big real estate brokers, right? There is about most real estate economic think tanks will tell you there's, this is true too. There's an 85 to 90% correlation between agent size, agent count in your organization and profitability. So the more you got, generally speaking, the more profit you're going to have. And I know you look at those companies and say, I don't know how many they make any money. None of those guys sell anything. Well, they do. Some of them do. A small percentage do. So if I look at a small boutique brokerage, there may be 10 or 20 people in there. And usually 2 or 3 of them or 4 of them will be doing most of the sales compared to the other 80%. Same with an office of 1,000 people, 100,000 people, a very small percentage of them, but it's still about usually 10, 20%, 80, 90% don't sell much. That mix tends to work out in every brokerage sooner or later. And it works out in every MLS and it works out in every national brand too. They like to say one's more selective than the other and agents are different and things like that. That agent production mix usually works out to be the same too. That's why there's always like an 80 to 85 to 90% correlation between profitability and size. So I know people like to be small and they like to be different. They like to be unique. And I'm sitting here normalizing all the different companies and brands, but guess what? I've been doing this for a lot longer than even some of the people we're mentioning. And we are in charge of coaching and consulting a lot of these companies. So we do get a pretty good bird's eye view of the differences. The point of the matter is there aren't a lot of differences. It's just size. So hate to burst that bubble for you. It's good that some have better cultures than others. Okay, that's great, but it doesn't really have anything to do with size. So anyway, the point of the matter is, as we move down into the brokers, same deal. Like they're getting the small piece of the pie, right? The big brokers, same thing. They usually have multiple staff people to pay. They got office expenses to pay. They get the small percentage of the commission check. The agent gets the big percentage. They have a very small margin. Then you start moving down into maybe some of the bigger teams, right? And the bigger teams, same deal. Like they got to pay out their agents. They got to pay their admin staff. They got to pay marketing. They get a very small percentage, maybe 20 to 30%. After they pay all their operating expenses and pay all their agents off the commission sold, profit margins, 20, 30, at most 40%. And again, the smaller teams will typically be around 40%. The real big teams will be around 20%. But trust me, the people that run the big teams make more money. Just the way it works, right? Smaller margins tend to be more net income. Then you move down into your sales agents, same deal. It's really interesting there. It keeps going because the less successful agents typically work at discount brokerages. There's exceptions all over the place. But I'm just talking to you from a macro perspective, bird's eye view looking down. You'll see those smaller agents that only sell one house a year, maybe every other year, 2 years. They hang their house. They go to the 100% companies, right? Because they know when they get that one deal, they want as much as humanly possible. Whereas the higher producing solo agents, they're typically gonna, if you look at them, they're normal competitive commission split companies paying 20%, 10%, maybe they've got a cap, things like that, who knows. But they're paying something competitive out there, even 30%, stuff like that. They're paying those amounts because they get value from it and they use the value and they want to keep succeeding and they're looking to grow, right? they're scaling up and they're going the right direction, trying to get more income and preserve their life balance too. So they use those things. But the lower producer ones tend to gravitate to the 100% companies. That's just the way it typically works. There's exceptions, I get it, but that's the way it works. So whether we start real low with that person that doesn't sell much at 100% with the highest margin, then we go all the way up to Elon Musk, right? Who's got the lowest margin and makes the most money. Understand, if you want to make more money, more net income, and get more of your life balance in check to do other things, you got to get over the profit margin obsession. And you've got to invest in your business, right? And that's a big deal. And what happens is, there's all these obstacles. I gave you examples as an agent grows up to who knows what the finish line looks like, brokerage owner, team owner, whatever, I don't know. Like I said, generally speaking, you always want to sell a little bit more to get a little bit more income. So we always want a little bit more income, and we always want a little bit more of our life back. So you're always going to hit these new obstacles and every obstacle typically is going to decrease your margin a little bit more as you grow. And it's fun, not fun. It's not funny either, actually, but it is. I'm happy for it because it gives my coaching company job security that you guys need us to get you through these. So it's not funny. It's vital. It's vital to me. However, we're trying to push you through those. We're trying to get you to walk across that short-term pain, the burning coals, to get to the treasure, the fortune on the other side, which is more income and less work. Right? So we're trying to push you through each obstacle you hit. And as you go to each, I got a coach. He coaches and is a director of all our leadership coaching, guy named Rick Fuller. He'll tell you, we got, it's almost like you're climbing a mountain. He's got different base camps, right? So we'll help you start investing in your business and a little bit more time, and then eventually you'll have to invest in some marketing or something. And you might, hire some admin support and some agents. Each one of those little steps where we decrease your margin is like a new base camp. We got to set up there and get sturdy there, and then move up to the next one. And that's that growth. And some move faster than others because they're over their profit margin obsession. Some don't. Some want to move much more cautiously and preserve that margin as long as they can as they move up. That's fine. I mean, everybody moves their own speed, but if you want to move quick, the key is getting over that profit margin obsession. And there's lots of things that get in the way that you can't help, like, seasonality. Like if you're in an area, typically places that have very cold weather in the winter, you won't have a lot of sales in the winter. So it's very hard to get through December without much money coming in, without slashing all your expenses and firing everybody or whatever you got going on. You got to live through that. So you got to save money through the winter. You got to capitalize your business so that you're prepared to go through those times. You got to control your mindset and your emotions through that. That happens too. Markets can change that, like on a real estate cycle over like a 10-year period. You go through a time when sales volumes drop, interest rates go up, prices collapse, all those different things that can happen to disrupt the amount of sales you do that's outside your control too. And that can make you go backwards. Agents leaving you, turnover can do it. And that's all going to happen. All that stuff's going to happen. I don't care who you are. That's going to happen to you. If it hasn't happened, it's coming. And we always want you taking 3 steps forward, and things will cause you to take 2 steps back. We just don't want you to take 3 to 4 steps back. We don't want you to go lower than your last base camp. And that's, you know what I mean? Because that will really slow things down. That can happen too. And then we got to kind of get back up there. But that's where coaches really help you. I know it's a shameless plug, but it really is important. These highly successful people very rarely do it on their own. Trial and error experiences. You want to get there fast. Success leaves clues. These guys have picked them up. It's up to you whether you want to reduce your profit margin and hire a coach. Again, there's another one. You can feel that obsession. I need that money. Yeah. Okay. Well, your base camp is where it is. And those results you're getting right now are typically what you're going to get. So remember that. That's really, really important. And so with small teams, typically, we're, like I said, people get stuck in the small team place forever. Like, right around that, I'll always say, like, it depends how many transactions you do, but they'll have like 4 or 5 agents. And that's a real tough place to be, man. It's one of the hardest places to be. And people, a lot of times they quit there and just say, because all it takes is like lose 2 or 3 agents and you've lost your whole team. that'll discourage your admin. They'll leave or they'll get, you know what I mean? Then you can't pay them anymore. And you just go all the way backwards. So you really got to grow through the small team thing. That's hard because I mean, I know it can go really well for a while and you can have some fun team lunches and everybody's going to be besties. I get it. Just wait. Nothing's going to happen. And they have a hard time sustaining because agents move around, man, and you can't control divorces. You can't control job transfers. You can't control, what fluctuations in sales volumes when they need to get a steady job. You can't control when all those things happen. They often quit or the grass is greener at some other brokerage. They think that'll make a difference. All that. Hey, there's an ebb and flow that you can't fight in real estate. Maintaining and squeezing your team tight and hoping it never changes without growing is really hard. That you squeeze to that tight, things will slip through your fingers. There's a reason they say in all business, if you're not growing, you're dying. Because maintaining is hard. Maintaining is hard. So, and focusing and obsessing over your profit margin is the quickest way to squeeze too tight. That's why that happens. That's why almost any leadership book is going to tell you that, right? So it's real important that we don't do that. Okay. And we don't obsess over it. And we're willing to move forward because we got to keep moving forward. That's crucial. And those small teams, man, you get up to 20 agents, let's say, I'm just picking random numbers out here. Now, all of a sudden you can grow, man. I mean, it's hard to go from 5 to 20. That's the hardest thing is to move out of that small team because recruiting is terribly hard and it's terribly humbling. It's the hardest thing in real estate, to do by far, way harder than listing properties and generating listings. It's humbling because you talk to these low producers or people that never sold a house and they're like deciding whether to go with you and they reject you. And a large percentage of them don't. And then they come on board and they move on and you go from like 5 agents to 20 agents. Yeah, you think that's 15 agents. No, that ain't 15 agents. That's going to be like 30 agents because 15 of them aren't going to work out. And that's just the numbers, man. You got to play those. I know it's going to be, people think it's going to be different for them, but it's not. So that's really hard to do. But once you get up to 20 agents, now you can you've got enough production coming. Even if a lot of them don't sell, that's probably enough to bring on someone else to handle the recruiting going forward because you've gone through the pain. And then how we compensate that person, that's we need coaches for all that. But you've got enough production coming in at that point, typically, where it's very easy to bring in another leader to help recruit and retain. Because at that point, it's going to be tough, but you do have to roll up your sleeves and fight through it. Just like agents, when they first start their business, they have to roll up their sleeves and fight through it. You have to lead generate. You have to get out there and really work hard to get some business until you get things up and running and that starts coming to you. Same thing as a leader, right? That's that growth mindset, right? So you have to push through it. And that's same true with brokerages, same through with, bigger numbers for brokerages because you have a lower margin there. So we need a little bit more agents, but you have to push through it until the organization is bringing in enough company dollar and enough income through other pillars of income that all these things can generate that we can now afford to get some of our time and enjoyment back because that's hard, man. I mean, it's real tough. So those small teams, I mean, you're looking at profit margins, 30, 40% if you're doing things right after you pay your agents and pay some administrative support and marketing. So your operating expenses and your cost of sales, those two things. And we analyze that for you as coaches and consultants. Then you get to big teams. I mean, you'll see them drop down to 20%. I mean, we've got a few teams we coach over, hundreds of agents, and, they didn't intend to be there either, our clients, the leaders of it, but they're very happy they are. They just want to get a little bit bigger and they just wanted to get a little bit more free time. And they just kept doing that and they just kept walking. And now here they are, 100 agents, their margin's probably, 10% or less at this point. And they don't care because they're making over $1 million a year and they barely have any day-to-day activities they do. They're completely out of production. They don't manage the team. They got other people in place. It's like a free $1 million that just comes their way of passive income. That's relatively passive. So that's really good, So that's, as they walk through those coals, and then they barefoot, and they got to the other side and then they walked through some more coals to keep growing and keep decreasing that profit margin. And they got there. And that's the mentality you've got to have. If you stop and try to assess where you're at right now, oftentimes we do that when we're standing on the burning coals. And of course you're going to say, no way, this is no fun. I want to go backwards. It's more comfortable over there because you've already been there. But remember, there's a reason you wanted to get out of that place in the beginning, and you just got to hang on to that reason. Coaches help you do that. But, you yourself, you go back to that place, you have now put a freaking ceiling on your growth because you're saying, I can't go up there. I tried those goals. They hurt. I don't want to go that way. No way. And that happens when bad things happen when you go that way. Usually it's your profit margin decreases. It could be turnover or problems with your agents or personnel or marketing's not working or leads kind of stop for a couple months. I mean, that just happens. Sales drop, markets change, seasonality, all the things I talk about. Those things make us go backwards down into comfort, and we take our base camp and reduce it. And that's the dangerous thing that we can't let happen too many times. It does happen to the best of us. It happens to me many a times. But now I'm at a place where I'm one of these bigwigs, man. I got a lot of different organizations, and I get passive income from them, and I'm always replacing myself, and I'm always decreasing my profit margin because I keep building a bridge and walking across them, right? So you got to build that bridge, though. So don't forget that. It does take some work. You do got to, so stop assessing during the work. Have faith in what that light at the end of the tunnel looks like, right? And we got to build that bridge and we walk across it. We don't have to go across it anymore so long as we bring in other talented personnel and give them a chance then to succeed as well too. So that's the idea behind this profit margin obsession that we've all got to different degrees. I've even still got it. But because I've dealt with it so many times, it is decreased compared to most people. Guys like Elon Musk, I doubt they even have it. He probably likes spending money, right? So, I can do better, and I'm going to keep doing better. And I hope this helps you do the same. Guys, thanks for your time. Can't wait to see you on the next episode too.